The man who lived in an airport for 18 years. The story of Mehran Karimi Nasseri. Imagine stepping off a plane and realizing you can never leave the airport. No passport, no country, and no home waiting outside. For one man, this wasn't a nightmare. It was life for 18 years. This is the true story of Mehran Karimi Nasseri, the man who inspired Steven Spielberg's movie The Terminal. But the real story is far more incredible and heartbreaking than Hollywood ever showed. Mehran Karimi Nasseri was born in 1945 in Masjid Soliman, Iran. His father worked for an oil company. His mother was a nurse from Scotland. From an early age, he dreamed of studying abroad and seeing the world. In the 1970s, Iran was changing fast. Political unrest grew. Mehran joined student protests against the Shah's regime. When the revolution intensified, he was accused of opposing the government and expelled from his homeland. For years he wandered across Europe, Germany, the Netherlands, and finally Belgium, seeking asylum. After endless interviews, the United Nations granted him refugee status in 1981. That paper was supposed to be his ticket to freedom. In August 1988, Mehran decided to travel to London through Paris. Somewhere along the journey, tragedy struck. His documents disappeared. Without proof of identity, he couldn't board his flight to England. The UK denied him entry. France refused him exit. He was trapped in the airport. Airport officials thought it was temporary. A day, maybe two. They gave him a meal voucher and told him to wait. But night came, the lights dimmed, and Mehran lay down on a metal bench under the hum of ceiling fans. As days turned into weeks, he created a small corner near gate 22, one bench, a plastic chair, a cart of luggage, newspapers, notebooks, and a shaving mirror. Slowly, Terminal 1 became his new home. Every morning he woke at 5 a.m., washed in the restroom, polished his shoes, and read discarded newspapers. He greeted security guards like neighbors. To many, he was simply Sir Alfred, the quiet gentleman of Charles de Gaulle. By the 1990s, journalists began to take notice. Photographers arrived. His story appeared in newspapers worldwide. Tourists came just to meet the man who lived in an airport. He smiled politely, offered tea, and returned to his notebooks. When reporters asked why he called himself Sir Alfred Mehran, he said he liked the sound. It made him feel British, dignified. He even signed letters that way, as if rewriting his own identity one word at a time. Every day was the same, yet every day was survival. He ate the same sandwiches, watched travelers hurry past, and listened to departure announcements that never included his name. He had become part of the airport, like the seats, the walls, the lights that never turned off. Mehran spent his afternoons writing letters, some to immigration offices, others to governments, and sometimes to no one at all. He wrote about philosophy, freedom, and what it meant to exist without belonging anywhere. Airport workers grew fond of him. Janitors brought him food. A cafe owner slipped him coffee in paper cups. Security guards smiled when they passed by. To them, he wasn't a problem, he was family. In the 1990s, a group of lawyers located copies of his refugee papers in Belgium. But bureaucracy had changed. His name didn't match exactly. New laws made old documents invalid. Once again, he was invisible on paper. By 1998, his story had reached international headlines. CNN, BBC, and newspapers from Tokyo to Toronto covered the man without a country. Travelers began leaving gifts, books, pens, postcards. To many, he symbolized hope and tragedy. By 1998, his story had reached international headlines. CNN, BBC, and newspapers from Tokyo to Toronto covered the man without a country. Travelers began leaving gifts, books, pens, postcards. To many, he symbolized hope and tragedy. After the film's success, humanitarian groups and governments offered him housing and legal status. For the first time, he could have left, but by then he refused. The airport had become his world, his only constant. Psychologists say he had developed a condition known as institutionalization, where a person becomes unable to function outside the environment they've adapted to. For Mehran, the airport wasn't a trap anymore, it was safety. Some travelers visited him year after year. They brought gifts, letters, and stories from the world outside. He listened with quiet eyes, smiled, and always said, "One day, maybe I'll go too." But that day never came. After nearly 2 decades, his body began to give up. Years of sleeping on hard benches, poor diet, and cold air took their toll. In 2006, he was rushed to a Paris hospital after collapsing in the terminal. After his recovery, he lived briefly in a shelter, then in a small apartment near the airport. But friends said he never felt at home. He often visited Charles de Gaulle just to sit quietly, watching the planes he could never board. In 2022, over 3 decades after first arriving there, Mehran returned to the airport once more. No cameras, no headlines, just him and the echo of his own footsteps in the place that had become his world. On November 12, 2022, Mehran Karimi Nasseri passed away peacefully inside Terminal 2F of Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. He was 77. Airport workers said he looked content, like he had finally found rest. Mehran's story isn't just about borders or bureaucracy. It's about what happens when identity is stripped away and humanity endures anyway. He was proof that even when the world forgets you, you can still leave a story behind that no one forgets.